There were dried bloodstains. We all screamed for ice cream. Please wake up. I'm Arya, one of the 3 young girls who experienced what I'm about to tell you. It was our wild, carefree days. This happened 10 years ago, on a July night. It was well past midnight. I was driving, with electronic music still ringing in our ears. We had just left a countryside festival somewhere in Europe and were on our way home. The only sounds breaking the silence of the night were the hum of the engine and Maya's infectious laughter. Maya is like a ball of energy. She brings joy to every place she enters. Isabel, on the other hand, is smart, controlled, and a bit of a mom figure. The 3 of us were like a perfect trio until that night. As we sang along to the music, we suddenly noticed a young man on the side of the road. He wore a hoodie and carried a backpack. He had his thumb out, hitchhiking. "Look at that. It's like a movie scene," Isabel said, staring out the window. "He's cute," Maya giggled. I hesitated. "I don't know, things like this usually end badly." "In movies they do," Maya said. "Come on, it'll be an adventure." I slowed the car. When our eyes met, the young man smiled, his eyes full of both mystery and charm. I rolled down the window. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, his voice charismatic. It felt silly to say no after we'd already stopped. "Sure," I said, unlocking the door. He got in and sat next to Maya in the back. From the tone of her voice, I could tell she was thrilled. But I was tense. Having a stranger in the car on a deserted road triggered all kinds of dark thoughts in my mind. While I was lost in those thoughts, Maya had already started chatting with him. He said his name was Elias. He did not say where he came from and where he was going, but he asked where we were headed. When we told him we had miles to go, he warned us that it wasn't safe to drive while tired and tipsy, and offered us a place to stay.
"I have a cabin in the woods,"
he said.
"You can crash there tonight and head out in the morning."
It was insane, but somehow we were spellbound. We agreed. Maya burst out laughing, thinking the real fun was just starting. But that was the beginning of our nightmare. We turned onto a forest road, and about 10 minutes later, we arrived at a small cabin. It was shabby but tidy. Deep in the woods, no phone signal, no lights, just a creepy, isolated place. As we stepped inside, I felt my skin crawl. But Maya, spotting the fireplace, shouted with excitement, "This is awesome!" As the night went on, the drinks flowed, we sang, and the conversation deepened. Elias was charming us with his words, flirting with each of us effortlessly. Around 1:30 a.m., Elias yawned. "I think it's time we get some rest," he said. He put each of us in separate rooms upstairs. The rooms were old but looked clean, at first glance. My room smelled of dampness. I lay down fully dressed and turned to my left. Oh my God, there were dried bloodstains on the wall. I pulled the blanket up to my chin, trying to close my eyes and forget what I'd seen. I even tried convincing myself it was just paint. The next day, I'd learned that Maya's room had claw marks all along one wall. And in Isabel's room, there were knife marks on the wall next to the bed. But none of us said anything to each other at the time. Maybe we couldn't. Maybe fear swallowed the words. Around 2:30 a.m., a woman's scream echoed through the house. I jumped out of bed, my heart pounding in my throat. Was that Isabel? Or was it Maya? I wondered, rushing to the door. But it was locked. It felt like it had been bolted from the outside. I tried it over and over again, but it wouldn't budge. At the same time, I could hear the girls trying to open their doors too. We were all calling out to each other. None of us could open our doors. I ran to the window, but it had metal bars on it. Inside the house, strange sounds began to rise, laughing, screaming, whispering, scratching. I ran back to the door. Then suddenly a hand hit the window. I screamed, but when I turned to look, there was no one there. Then, silence. A moment later, I heard slow, barefoot footsteps on the wooden floor. Someone was walking in front of our doors. Then a woman's voice began to chant.
I scream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream.
I knew that rhyme. And each time it ended, she would stop and pound on whichever door she was in front of. By that point, the girls and I had given up trying to open the door. Whatever was out there, we were too scared to face it. I was silently praying that whoever or whatever was outside wouldn't get the door open. I think the first door was Maya's. It got pounded on hard. 20 seconds later, the steps began again.
I scream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream.
This time the pounding was a bit farther away. It was Isabel's door. 20 seconds later.
I scream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream.
This time the footsteps stopped in front of my door. And then she pounded on it. A thin white gas began to seep in from under the door. I tried not to breathe, but I couldn't help it. My vision blurred. My body started trembling. Right before I passed out, the last thing I heard was Elias whispering,
We're having so much fun, girls.
When I opened my eyes, I was lying on the wooden floor. I was only in my underwear. Shivering, I sat up. The windows and doors were wide open. I was freezing. The house was completely silent. I ran into Maya's room. It was empty. So was Isabel's. The beds were messy, but no one was there. The house was empty. I bolted outside. As I ran to the car, I was praying. I saw Maya and Isabel in the back seat. They were unconscious in their underwear. I started the car and took off at full speed, crying. As I bounced down the dusty road, I kept repeating the same sentence. Wake up. Please wake up. We drove to the nearest town and went straight to the police. They called an ambulance. All three of us were treated in the ambulance and wrapped in blankets. We went back with the police to the place we had described. But the house wasn't there. And neither was Elias. All that was left was a collapsed, rotting house boarded up with broken windows abandoned for 30 years. There was no trace of us ever being there. No fingerprints, no footprints, nothing. Since the house didn't match our story, we were simply sent back. And the case was closed. Maya didn't speak for years. Her joyful spirit was gone. Isabel still wakes up screaming every night. As for me, I've never gone out at night again. Never partied again. Every night in my room I hear footsteps pacing, with a voice chanting,
I scream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream.
And right before I wake up, I see Elias's eyes staring straight into mine, and he's smiling. Oh God, his eyes. I wanted to scream, but I knew it wouldn't help out here. Suddenly, a hand covered my mouth. My name is Sarah. I'm 29 years old. I'm at an age where I can clearly tell the difference between dreams and reality. I don't have the energy anymore to convince people who tell me I was hallucinating. I've grown tired of explaining what happened over and over again, so I decided to share it like this for everyone to read or listen if they want. Anyway, I was born in Arizona, but I currently live alone in California. It's been 11 years since I left my family. I didn't visit them often, not even for holidays. I usually spent my 1 or 2 week vacations either alone or with friends. I used to love traveling. I had this plan I'd been dreaming about for a long time. Everyone I told said it was crazy, but I wanted to do it before I turned 30. Honestly, my dream was to travel the world. That seemed financially impossible for now. So I quit my job as a software developer, which I'd been doing for 6 years. I didn't tell anyone. My plan was to travel solo across the US, from east to west in my car. I'd stop in places I liked, stay a night or two, and enjoy the scenery. I had an old Volkswagen. I got everything ready: maps in case I lost internet, camping gear, some food and drinks, my suitcase. After triple checking I hadn't forgotten anything, I hit the road. I wasn't in a rush. I wanted to take my time, explore slowly, rest often. I had no one waiting for me, no job to rush back to. But things didn't go as planned. Shortly after crossing the New Mexico border, my car suddenly overheated. There was no internet, no cell service. GPS lost signal. I was stuck on the side of the road, completely alone. I popped the hood and waited helplessly. The sun was starting to dip lower in the sky. I started getting nervous. Then I realized no cars had passed for over 2 hours. I didn't know the area, so I couldn't guess how normal or abnormal that was. I grabbed my map, but the spot I thought I was in didn't show a road at all. It was like my phone's GPS had sent me somewhere completely off-grid. Maybe that's why no one had passed by for hours. Eventually, a dusty, rust-covered old car appeared in the distance. It screeched to a stop beside me, the sound grating on my ears. The driver looked to be in his 60s. He was wearing sunglasses, but I could feel him sizing me up. "Car trouble?" he asked. His voice was rough, but he seemed to be trying to soften it deliberately. I nodded. "Any mechanic around here?" I asked. He smiled, but it was the kind of smile that chilled you to your core. "No," he said, "but I can drop you off at a nearby motel. There should be a landline there." I didn't have much of a choice. The sun was almost down, and I was all alone in the desert. So I got in the car. At first, everything seemed normal. We didn't talk, just the hum of the engine and the wind outside. But after 15 minutes, the scenery started to change. The cracked asphalt disappeared. The road turned to dirt, and all the trees around us looked burnt. Black, sooty trunks lined the road. There were no signs anywhere. "Where does this road lead?" I asked. He gave me that same creepy smile and said, "To where the map ends." Then he took off his sunglasses and looked at me. Oh God, his eyes. They were almost entirely white, with pale gray irises. They were dull, empty, almost hollow. I leaned away and held my breath. I wanted to scream, but I knew it wouldn't help out here. That's when I saw 3 people standing on the side of the road. They were dressed strangely, 2 women and 1 man. Suddenly, he hit the brakes. I nearly slammed into the windshield. I thought maybe I could jump out and run, but where would I even go? How far could I get? I wasn't thinking clearly. When I reached for the door handle, I realized it didn't have one. The back door opened. Those 3 people got in. They moved slowly, like they were sick. The driver clearly knew them, but no one said a word. As they entered, I looked at their faces. Blank. Lifeless. Their eyes were the same as his pale, gray, almost white. The car started moving again. My heart felt like it was going to explode. I didn't dare ask any more questions. I couldn't bear another one of his twisted smiles. The presence of those 3 people behind me made me physically sick. No one said anything. Then suddenly I felt my seatbelt tighten around my throat. I was choking, couldn't breathe. I twisted my head and saw the younger woman pulling the belt back toward herself. I grabbed at it with both hands, trying to free myself, but she was incredibly strong. Just when I thought I was going to black out, the driver said, "Not yet." The woman let go. Tears ran down my face. I didn't know what they were going to do to me, but I was terrified they were going to sacrifice me in some kind of ritual. Up ahead, I saw an old, crumbling one-story building. It didn't even look like a house, more like a ruin. A few people stood outside, looking just like the others. When they saw me in the front seat, these disgusting grins spread across their faces. That's when I knew they were either going to sacrifice me or eat me. The car braked hard again. I slammed into the dashboard. I waited inside. I had no intention of getting out. The driver and the others stepped out. Somehow I noticed the key was still in the ignition. Maybe he forgot. I jumped into the driver's seat, started the engine, and slammed on the gas. I spun the car around and took off in the direction we came from. In the rearview mirror, I saw them running after me in their bizarre way. Even my brisk walk could have outrun them. I was safe. Or so I thought. Suddenly, a hand covered my mouth. I looked in the mirror. It was the same woman who had tried to choke me with the seatbelt. She never got out of the car. I slammed on the brakes. I bit her hand. It tasted rotten, like decomposing flesh. She pulled back, and I reached behind to open the door. I swerved hard left and right. She finally fell out. As she hit the ground, she screamed, "You'll never escape!" I kept driving. I returned to where my car had broken down, but it was gone. I drove on. In the distance, I saw lights, buildings. My car started shaking and sputtering. Then it stopped. What if they had another vehicle? What if they caught up to me? What if it all happened again? I started running toward the lights as fast as I could. After about 20 minutes, I reached a gas station. Next to it was a motel. I ran in and called the police. They arrived 20 minutes later. I told them everything. They gave me this strange look, like they didn't believe me. They asked how long I'd been driving. But none of that mattered. We went back to the place I'd escaped from. But nothing was there. No car, no people, no building. Even worse, my own car was gone. The police said I probably imagined it from exhaustion. They said maybe my car had been stolen. An investigation was started, but months later it's still missing. After that, I went home. Now, every night, I see someone with pale gray eyes standing in the corner of my room. I bought myself a small car since then, but I never drive on back roads anymore. 2 days ago, I was heading to a friend's house and took a slightly out-of-the-way route. I saw a woman hitchhiking on the side of the road. My brain screamed, "Don't stop." But something inside whispered, "Stop." As I slowed just a little, our eyes met. They were pale gray, almost white. I slammed the gas pedal to the floor and sped away. And I think she was right. I'm never going to escape this.